you are live.
Welcome to today's Sunset Safari. My name is Brent. I have Genre on camera. And it's been quite an interesting day. This morning we had wild dog, lion and awesome hyena interaction. So hopefully the sunset will prove to be just as thrilling. Now Jamie, I know, is on her way back to look for the Nkuhumas. We've got those lovely little cubs at the moment. I am going to go have a look down at Cheetah Plains. I checked most of Djuma today. I found no sign of leopard, and I'm feeling like I'm lacking leopard in my life. So, and there's always a possibility the wild dogs we saw in that direction, they might swing back down towards Cheetah Plains. So definitely worth a squiz down there. And remember, we're on live African Safari. We're in the middle of the African bush. So wherever you are in the world, welcome to South Africa and to later. Also, you can ask us questions if you would like about what we're seeing on the safari. You can do that by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter or popping an email to us on questions@WildEarthTV. And it is a beautiful, beautiful day. It's about 26 degrees Celsius, which 70 odd Fahrenheit. I see the hyenas have taken the remainder of this buffalo skin. There's a large drag mark going through here. I'm pretty sure that's from the hyenas. The buffalo kill was there when we left it this morning. There was almost nothing on it, just a bit of skin, and it looks like a hyena's even dragged that skin off. Well, maybe we'll come across the hyenas still chewing on the buffalo skin, but they are able to drag those things for incredible distances. So maybe not. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, the skin of a buffalo, while it's wet, which this one still is, can weigh an incredible amount. It's probably easily over 150 pounds, just the skin. Now, there's been no word of Queen Karula the last while. I have sent out some feelers to the properties to the south of us, see if they've had any sign of her, but nothing so far. We're going to continue on towards Cheetah Plains. While we do that, let's go say a good afternoon to Jamie.
Good afternoon and welcome on this very merry Wednesday afternoon Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon I have Dave on camera with me once again, and we are heading straight back to where we left those lions this morning. So I wanted to put in a little bit of time with them first before the other vehicles come out and about, and we have to relinquish our spot, since if they are where we left them, which I'm sort of 50-50 about, but if they are where we left them, then it is a position where it will be an only one vehicle lock only, so only one vehicle can go in and see them. But we've got a really exciting prospect for this afternoon to go and see those lions, the new set of Nkuhuma cubs that we have never seen before up until yesterday. Totally different. This is probably their first time in their entire little lives seeing a vehicle, and they need to be treated very cautiously, which is exactly what we did this morning. And by the end of this morning's drive, we had them fast asleep, very relaxed with our presence. Oh, yay, another one! I was just about to tell you that, about the fact that I saw it. Oh, that's not a tortoise. I was about to say we saw a tortoise, but we saw a tortoise, and now we have a terrapin. So that incredible rainfall that we had last night that had us all rejoicing and listening contentedly to the atmospheric sounds above our beds, and of course the crack of the thunder and lightning, has brought out all kinds of things. Dave and I saw our tortoise on the way here, and now we've got a hinged terrapin who has attempted very efficiently to hide himself in a bundle of leaves. Unfortunately for him or her, we are onto him. Let's go and have a closer look before we go past and on our way to those lions. So lovely to see the reptiles out and about. This early winter rainfall, well, I don't know if I'd call it early, I don't know what I'd call it. This peculiar winter rainfall has had them all awakening from their winter, not quite slumber, but what we know as eastivation. Let's try and get a good position to see this guy. Making it very tricky. There you go. pretending to be a leaf. I'm a leaf, I'm a leaf, I'm a leaf. Not quite, Terrapin. We're on to you. That being said, it really does look like it might be a rock, just settled underneath a stick. And this is the sort of position that they adopt when they go into what's known as estivation, which is kind of like hibernation that a lot of the animals in the northern climes adopt, but it is a technique that is slowing of the metabolism for dry weather rather than for temperature. And what that means is that they awaken out of it easily and quickly, and they pop out for days like today where there's been a lot of rainfall and the temperatures are nice and high before they go back into their state of estivation for the rest of winter and await the next rainfall. Our marsh hinge terrapin is having a wonderful time. Well, there we go. Jennifer on YouTube is thrilled to see a terrapin, as are we. You should have seen my reaction when we saw the tortoise a little bit earlier. Tortoise, 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 tortoise. We sort of miss these animals that we take for granted in summer. So lovely to see a terrapin, who I think is still trying to do his best impression of disappearing underneath the leaves and the sticks there. But Jennifer, you, just like myself, are thrilled to see them. Like a little bulldozer trying to push under these leaves. We see you, buddy. Your cover is blown, unfortunately. Okay, let's get to those lions. I know it's very exciting to see this terrapin, but we do need to crack on before the other vehicles head out on their... Oopsie. Luckily that stick was there to stop me. Afternoon safari. Just watching him carefully. We might get a view of its head, and we'll see how we... It's a tricky spot you found yourself in, mister. Dave, can you see him from that angle? Not quite. But too close. He's got his head out, which is awesome. It's a very large terrapin. And if you look to the right-hand side of his body, you'll actually see his head poking out. Terrapins, unlike tortoises, do not retract their heads fully into the shells. They actually turn them sideways. Hello. Looking at us wide-eyed. And how are you this afternoon? Are you enjoying the winter's rainfall? Really nice blink there. Not all of our reptiles have eyelids, or at least not sort of movable eyelids, but he just gave us a really nice blink to show that he is a terrapin. Does. With his sideways tucked head, it's one of the big differences in terms of the difference between terrapins and turtles. Terrapins and tortoises. Tortoises draw their heads back into their shells and are purely land-based. One species can swim, but they are land-based creatures, whereas a terrapin is a curious mixture between a land-based tortoise and a water-based turtle, and falls somewhere in between, although they spend most of their time in the water. Alright, buddy, we're going to leave you to carry on trying to bulldoze underneath the plants and disappear underneath them. Let us go and have a look for these lions. I'm really hoping they're still there. But as I said, I'm 50-50 as to whether or not they will be, or whether they will be tucked further into the drainage system. If they are tucked further into the drainage line, first of all, it's going to be really hard to track them, and second of all, we're probably not going to try, with the cubs being as skittish as they are. Herbert and myself tracked them this morning, because we actually only saw one set of tracks, one set of male tracks and one set of female tracks. There is a male with them, and he's been doing some very careful courting. He obviously, the reason we knew to look in this area was we heard them growling at each other. So he's obviously overstayed his welcome a little bit with one of the females that he's been sniffing around. Okay, we could see them from the hyena den. While we navigate our way around this tricky spot and try and see if we can't get a position of where those lions may be, let's go over to Brent, who is going on a Mulwati adventure.
So we decided to come have a look at the Mawati River after that little bit of rain we had last night. As you can see, if there was a bit more rain, that erosion would keep going. Jandre, what's that? Oh my goodness! It's Shongile and Hosanna! No, of course we saw them a bit earlier. So I got a message from my friend Tristan who said they saw Karula crossing around this area into Djuma, and we drove down in the Mawati to see if we had any of her tracks crossing, and Jandre spotted Shongile and Hosanna sitting on top of the bank. So I don't know if Mom's there, but we do have both the little ones. Here we go. So both cubs looking really happy and healthy. We will try to find a spot to get in there. They're on top of a very steep bank. I'm just going to move. Karula could be very close by, or she might be out hunting. Okay, and of course this has most definitely changed our plans. We're not heading to Cheetah Plains just yet. So I'm just going to try to go up onto the right here a little bit where I can get a bit higher. And fortunately for us, it rained last night, which makes the sand a little bit more compact and easier to drive through. Now she could have left them here. This would be a very sort of normal spot for her to leave the cubs. There we go. So I can't see who's who just yet. Let's have a look once Jandre zooms in. Which little darling is this? I think that is... Who do you think that is, Jandre? I think that's Hosanna. I might be wrong. Not too familiar with their spot patterns just yet.
Oh, it's the eyes.
It's the eyes. Yes, that's why I think it. If we have a look slightly up above, you can see what I think is Shongile with some... Oh, what have you heard downstream? Is Mom coming back? It's always possible. Can't hear any chuffing yet. Oh, no. If we have a look a little bit... Oh, look, no, actually, let's just wait. That's so pretty. So if you guys know which one this is, let's see who's right, Jandre or me. Send your answers through to questions@WildEarthTV or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So awesome to catch up with these little ones. And you are correct. You can see how much they've grown. February, March, April, May, June, July. It's nearly over 6 months old now. Oh, up on top. Might stop in the sun. There we go. Now I think that is Shongile. Let's just wait till she looks at us. And you can see those eyes. But I just think that looks more to be a female to me. Just size. Already there's starting to be a bit of a size difference between the two. Oh, isn't that stunning? Hope you guys are getting some good screenshots of that. As I'm doing, and that's the clickety click. Doing a bit of grooming, so just judging from their behavior at the moment, I don't think, ooh, time to stalk sibling, maybe. Yes, I think it looks like a bit of a sibling stalk. Or not. Maybe you got a little bit, looking for a bit of shade. No, I think sibling stalk's about to happen. Oh no, spotted. Could the ruse continue longer? Oh no, spotted again. Jandre, do you recognize that termite mound?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened to us on that very termite mound?
We got a growling.
Yes, we got growled at by Mvula when we were on a bushwalk during Big Cat Week on that very termite mound. Oh, it looks like shade was preferred to the sibling stalk. Okay, so we're going to sit here and see what they get up to. We might have to move a little bit later, but just before we do that, let's go see how Jamie's lion hunt is going.
How incredible is this for afternoon luck? We've got leopards cubs on one vehicle and these two adorable little, as Brent terms them, delectable little monsters on the other. We have relocated our lions. They've actually moved into a slightly better position, and Mom just gave them a gentle nudge away from feeding. And I think because they've been feeding, they've actually relaxed immensely already with the presence of the vehicles. Hello, gorgeous. Some of the most famous little lion cubs in the world. And it's the first time we have ever... the first time in the last 2 days, this is the first time we've ever seen them. We suspected they existed, but we never ever got any clarification, and it's only now that we are starting to see them. Mom has done a really good job of keeping them hidden away. In the meantime, we have got 3 very flat female lions. As for the other 2, they must be off with their own set of cubs somewhere else. And then, in front of us, but very hidden, and I had to kind of choose, but in terms of vehicle positioning, look, we are about to fall down into the drainage line, so, no sudden movements on the back of the vehicle, please. No screeching or shouting or rocking the boat, because otherwise we are going to go in here. There's no question in my mind that at any point we could actually go tumbling down there, but there's actually a male lion in front of us. So there you go. A perfectly peaceful start of the afternoon. Some sleeping lions, the male on one side, and then the females and their 2 little cubs on the other. Definitely not a bad start to the afternoon. Aren't they adorable? And if we're really lucky, once they've finished off with their lunch, then they might even decide to start playing with each other, since they have relaxed so much in terms of their presence on this vehicle, or their presence with vehicles. There are 2 of them. There's also 3 older ones and 3 younger ones. Now, Kathy, in answer to your question about the lion cubs having names, they don't. And traditionally, we actually don't really name lion cubs. They're named after the pride that they come from. If they are females, then of course they generally stay with the pride, so they keep the pride name. If they are males, then they become the Nkuhuma males when they start to grow up. And if there's more than one set of Nkuhuma male, which of course with junior they would be, then they will be given different names based on the area that they move about in. But our tradition is, or at least guiding tradition is, that we don't really name the lions, but instead name the individual members of a male coalition and the prides as a whole, because they tend to move as a unit. That being said, we have of course named the rest of our lions. I know that Amber Eyes is in here somewhere. The reason I know that is because we've got 2 lionesses without cubs and 1 with cubs. By sheer process of elimination, Amber Eyes is somewhere here. She's one of the 2 lionesses that's lying down. And we've sort of ended up half-naming the rest of the Nkuhumas as well. Aw, Mom, you're kicking your cubs in the face. It's a tough life being a little lion cub. Though we haven't named the lion cubs, I believe that the cameramen have a way of labeling them in terms of months of birth, just to keep track of the 3 different litters that we have. And once they start to get older and developing personalities, then there's nothing really to stop us from naming them. Although traditionally they won't be named, and it definitely won't be a name that is accepted throughout the Sabi Sand, for example. Oh, they are so cute. This is such a wonderful way to spend an afternoon, apart from the slim threat sort of tumbling down into a drainage system, into a narrow, very narrow incline. I'm sure we'll be fine, won't we, Dave? We'll be absolutely fine. Luckily, we know how reliable the handbrakes are on these vehicles, so we can trust that to stop our fall, our downward descent. You know, they barely even lifted up their heads this afternoon when I drove in here. So it just goes to show how wonderfully relaxed they are becoming. And so, the Nkuhumas for now have gone from 5 to, hold on, maths, would be nice, 13. There's 8 cubs, 8 Nkuhuma cubs. Yes, Mommy, you've done a wonderful job. Let's just confirm this, Dave. Can we? Oh no, we're on Wendy, aren't we? We can't get any closer to her face. That's as far as we've got. Oh no. But it does look like the older lioness, so that does confirm that these are new cubs to us. So we've got 8 cubs, 3 for one, 3 for the other. Hello, girl. You had us all fooled for a while you were mating with the Birmingham boys. Heidi, in terms of the different sets of cubs, there's the oldest set that they must be coming up to about, I would say, we don't know exactly, but we're guessing that they are coming up to around 11 or so weeks old. 11 to 12 weeks old. This set, to me, I would put them at about maybe 6 or so weeks. They're just starting to be brought by their mother to the rest of the pride and to the kill. And then there's the youngest set at Buffelshoek Dam that we have calculated or have put at around 3.5, 4 weeks. I think. Am I right? Yes, that's right. So there's a sort of a rough 2 weeks age difference between the youngest and the middle group, and then a further 6 weeks difference between them and their older cousins. And that, as they start to get older, that age difference will become less and less significant, and they will continue to play with each other. And what we saw with the Styx cubs is the Styx cubs have 2 very distinctive groups, the older and the younger cubs. And we saw them on Cheetah Plains not too long ago. And what actually we noticed was that the female, who was most likely the mother of the youngest cubs, was still suckling. Now, we know that lionesses allosuckle, but it was interesting that I don't think the rest of the Styx females are lactating anymore. So she ended up with this pile of lion cubs, all trying to suckle from her at the same time. Couldn't help but feel a little bit sorry for her, but at the same time it was an incredible sight to witness, especially with all of their vocalizations as they fought for access to the milk. And one of the big reasons, actually, is that, or one of the big reasons why females keep their cubs away from the pride for the first 6 weeks, is because in those initial stages, if there are any older cubs, and lionesses tend to synchronize their estrus cycles to an extent, you'll usually find that when you have one set of cubs in a pride, you'll have another not far behind. But you'll usually find that the estrus cycles pair up, and that the youngest cubs actually won't be bought until they are strong enough to cope with the attentions of their older cousins. So the lion cubs get very, very enthusiastic and they want to play. They are very playful animals. Lots of learning and play fighting. But in those crucial first weeks of a lion cub's life, they're actually really vulnerable. And they could be accidentally killed by older cousins getting a little bit too rough in their playtime with them. So that's one of the big reasons why lionesses keep their cubs secret and safe for usually around their first 6 weeks. And she did a marvelous job of keeping them secret and safe. She had us questioning their existence at one point. She was mating with a male not too long ago, and it just seemed like every day we would hear reports of her mating, and we never really got to see whether or not she headed back to feed and look after her little cubs, but obviously she did. And mating with the male was just a natural hormonal mix-up on his part. And he just wouldn't let her leave, which often happens with mating lions. The male tends to be more enamored than the female. So a sleepy puddle of lions right now. I don't know where the other 2 lionesses are. They were at the kill yesterday, And it does seem as though the mother of the youngest cubs has moved her den site. We don't know where she's moved it to, but it does seem as though she has moved it. Hopefully we will be... Just think of how exciting this is in terms of our prospects for the next few weeks. Next time they make a kill on our Traverse area, we'll go there, and very, very soon the youngest set will be joining us. And then we'll just have lion cubs everywhere. 8 little lion cubs barreling about, playing with each other. So exciting. We know we've got at least 2 males. And Andreen, you are absolutely right. It really did feel as though she was gone a really long time without heading back to the cubs. But no, they can't survive that long without suckling. You'll probably find that it would be a maximum of 3 or so, I think was happening. I think she was sneaking off and getting back to them somehow, probably at night. So she was ducking away from the male and heading back to feed them. That's the only suggestion that I have to offer, because I really don't think that they would have survived that long without feeding. It doesn't make any sense to me. Or if they had, they certainly wouldn't look as healthy as they do now. And they do look like 2 very healthy little lion cubs. One is slightly larger than the other. There he goes. Oh, I'm automatically labelled him as a he. I don't know that. Oh, don't pop yourself down there, little one. That's not where we want you to go. Stay. Stay. Okay, he's decided to go to sleep exactly where we can't see him. But that's okay. Oh, I keep labeling it. It has decided to go to sleep. I don't know if it's a boy. It just struck me as a boy as soon as I saw it, but I really, really don't know if that's the case, just because it looks bigger than its sibling. And the other little one has stopped suckling for now and has gone to sleep. A truly peaceful and contented scene. Now, we didn't want to keep you away from our lovely leopards for too long. Let's go back across to Brent and find out what's happening with Hosana and Shongile.
Well, our lovely leopards have gone to sleep in the worst place possible. Unfortunately, I think we've got a visual of half an ear at the moment, but we are definitely just going to sit here quietly and wait. Of course, we don't want to move too much around. Karula's not here. So we're just going to sit here and wait for them to hopefully pop up. Chandra's going to show you where they are. Oh, I saw an ear flick. A very, very, very small ear flick, but an ear flick nonetheless.
The one on the left?
On the right. So you'll see there's a little bush that Chandra is about to zoom into there. Now, can you believe it? Right there is a leopard cub, and it's just sleeping flat. Can we see anything? No, unfortunately we can't. Can you? I can't. I'm looking at the monitor. I can't even see a spot. So he's sleeping in the shade just behind there. He did come up and have a little look at us, and then just lay his head down, and we haven't been able to see him since there. And I think that's the Hosana. And then little Shongile is in the little spike thorn thicket, also in the shade, just on the other side of this termite mound. Unfortunately, where we are at the moment, we're unable to really move around. Of course, there's a very steep bank in front of us. So this is the only spot where we possibly would get visual of those little creatures from. So we don't want to put any pressure on them. We don't want them to have any negative reactions to vehicles. So we're going to sit tight here. I am very sure they will pop up again. But it's quite warm at the moment. It's at 26 degrees Celsius. It hasn't been this warm for quite a while. So I'm quite sure they're just enjoying a snooze in the shade. They looked reasonably hungry. Karula was seen in this area crossing. So I think she's off hunting. So maybe keep an eye on the Djuma, around the Djuma dam cam. She could even go that far while hunting. She could come back to the cubs. So I definitely think it's worth our while staking out this spot. Unfortunately, they're not giving us the best visual at the moment, but as I always say, patience is the true key at getting those incredible sightings. And that's one thing we've got when it comes to our wonderful animals, is patience. Hi, Tucker. Tucker's 4 years old, and he's referring to this very steep drop. There we go, on the edge of the little river system. There's a probably about a 2.5 meter drop down to where we were. You can see where my car tracks are down in the bottom there. And Tucker's worried that these baby leopards might fall off the mountain. Well, Tucker, they could probably, at this age already, even jump off there and they'll be completely fine. Leopards are made to jump and climb, so don't worry about them. They'll be fine if they happen to get too close to the edge. And as I said, not even an ear flick at the moment. Maybe we can try it reverse a little bit, see if that doesn't help. But as I said, I think they're just lying just out of sight. So we lost sight of them from down in the riverbed, and they moved into the shady side of this termite mound. See if maybe we can see into the back side of this little thicket. You getting anything there, Jean-Ray? She's lying just in the one spot. Both of them, unfortunately. Oh no, there we go. Are you guys? Okay. There she is. I said she just went over the edge. And there she is, lying at the back. So I think that's... Oh, both of them there. Oh, the other guy snuck off. So Tony in Holland is wondering, at what age can leopard cubs survive on their own? I know the youngest recorded in this part of the world, Tony, is 9 months. Has been abandoned by the mother, or mother was killed when it was 9 months old, and it survived to live a very long life. Now, here we go. Hello, little cubbies. Oh. Now, I do have to be on the game drive radio for a little bit. But oh, let's just enjoy this while we can. Aren't they just gorgeous? Waiting patiently for Mom to return, but I'm quite sure that exuberance of youth will get hold of them a little bit later, and they might start playing. Okay. Okay, look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? Sorry, it's that time of the afternoon where a lot of the game drive vehicles get going, so I do need to be on the radio. So I'm going to let you enjoy the visual of that little leopard while I talk to the other guides. We've located Karula's Mampimpans in the Mawati between Twin Dams and Gari Main. Both Mampimpans, no Mafazi. Negative orbs, just the Mampimpans, they're stationary on a Shidulu. Copy orbs, best access is from Leadwood Road. You'll see my Mover and Konzo goes off the road. They're on the eastern bank of the Moati, where that very tall eroded section is of the bank. FM text, no problem. Look at that. So what happens in situations like this is that female leopards will leave their little youngsters by themselves in an area like this. Now, there's enough trees that they can climb to get away from potential dangers such as lions and hyenas, or even possibly another male leopard. And there's enough shade, and they are quite vigilant even at this age. They have to be to survive, and Karula is a particularly good mother. You can see how they basically disappear, and if they weren't moving or running around, they become near invisible. Now, how I spotted it is I just saw that sort of an ear flick as I was rolling back, and when they're in that dappled light, you can see how well the camouflage works. As I said, they might be resting at the moment, but with cubs, the exuberance of youth always generally takes over, especially when mom's away, so there might be a little bit of playing, but at the moment, just resting. Oh, there's a paw swatting at a branch from the second cub who's lying behind. Now, we could be very lucky and mom could come back while we're sitting here. And I was just feeling that we hadn't had leopards for a while. I actually hadn't had leopards since I got back from Rwanda. So my plan was to maybe go have a look for quarantine down on Cheetah Plains, but we're lucky enough, and Jean-Andre pulled off a great spot of these two little creatures. Hi, Anne. Anne's wondering, later in life, will the sister and brother recognize each other, or will they be aggressive to each other? It's very difficult to say, because the males generally move away from their natal territory, so where their sister will carry on living. So it's very difficult to say, but I'd probably say, it all depends. If the young male came back as the dominant male, he might even mate with his sister. That's very common in cats in general, but there probably will be a bit of aggression. I'm guessing, especially while they're a bit younger, so he's probably going to hang around with his mom for a bit longer than she does. Female leopard cubs normally become independent at a younger age than male leopard cubs and sort of strike out on their own. So let's hope that the section of Karula's territory that she decides to pass on to young Shongile will be on Djuma. I think they've gone absolutely flat. There we go. Tired kitty. Should I roll back or go forward a little bit for that branch, Andre? Slightly back. I'm just going to...
That other one's going to get in the way then.
We're not going to win. Okay, we'll just sit where we are. As you can see, a high protein diet will make you grow up quickly. And, oh, there you go, head up. They're always very attentive. Watch the ears moving. Now, you wouldn't want to be a francolin or dwarf mongoose wandering into this area, as you might be dinner. Now, it's unusual for cubs to catch anything substantial at this young age, but they definitely do catch lots of little insects and creepy crawlies. And that's more for play. But from about this age, they might get lucky enough to catch something small like a dwarf mongoose. A lot of the leopard cubs that I've spent time with in the past, their first kill is quite often monitor lizards. because they're not that quick. What is that little one spotted? I can't see if there's a predatory bird above. It doesn't look like it. Oh no, head's gone back down. I was looking up into the sky. I can't see if there's any predatory bird up in the sky, but maybe there was one that shot through that caught that little one's attention. And here's some crested francolin calling on the other side of the little Mawati River here. And now, of course, the poor francolin, from now up until about a year old, are going to be heavily terrorized by these two. It looks like it's nap time. Very fidgety. As I said, we're probably going to spend as long as we can here. There are other game drive vehicles operating around it. We'll probably come in here for a bit, but we'll try to do what we did yesterday. We'll give everyone a chance to come have a look, and then we will come back after everyone's finished. Wind's picked up quite a bit, but it is a glorious afternoon compared to the cloudy morning we started with. There you go. I cannot actually... Chandra, can you even see a cloud in the sky? I can't see one. Ex-ranger says this is for Genre. Genre, do the leopard cubs ever chase butterflies and moths?
I'll happily film it.
Yes. So, for those of you who might be a bit new, Genre and I seem to have a bit of a war when it comes to filming butterflies. I really love butterflies. I think we've got over 20 species on camera this wet season. Genre, not such a fan of butterflies.
I love butterflies. I just don't believe we should look down on them.
Well, Genre trying to be clever. He says he loves butterflies, but he doesn't believe we should look down on them. Well, anyway, we'll see. Especially with a little bit of rain. Genre, we could have some really nice butterfly sightings in the next few days.
Can't wait.
Good man. Tired kitties. And strange enough, this is one of the few places we didn't drive this morning. Now, Kat in Tampa says there must be something in the Djuma pan water with all these cubs about. Oh, there does seem to be an incredible amount of cubs at the moment, and also especially with the carnivores that do not have a set breeding season, so they can have cubs at any time of the year. But from a predator point of view, if you're going to have a cub, have one in a drought. Access to food is much, much easier. So it's a really great time, and I'm hoping that a lot of these cubs will survive through to adulthood. Oh, I can hear a little bird for Genre. Because after butterflies, then I think butterflies are but
I like butterflies.
Birds.
I like birds. Ones that you can actually see.
Ones that you can see. Oh, I can't see this one. I can just hear it calling in this. Well, I'll give you a respite for a while. I'll keep watching that bush to see if that little flycatcher pops up. No, it didn't. Just seeing if you're awake. Can hear them calling, but I think they still could be beyond in that bush there, so it's a bit thick and a bit far away. Very distinct little tink, tink, tink. It's one of the many calls of the chin spot batis, a little flycatcher species. So we got about 12 millimeters of rain last night, and James Dungan is wondering what plants might have benefited from that and what plants that are not dormant. Well, James, even the dormant plants are going to benefit from any moisture that they can take in from the ground. But I think a couple of the grass species, a few wildflowers, I don't know if 12 mils is enough to really get anything going, but I suppose every little bit helps, especially in a drought like we are experiencing at the moment. It's the worst drought in South Africa since the early 90s, and caused by a very similar weather phenomenon in that era, and well, both known as El Nino. There we go. Is there a head up, or they're still flat cats? Flat cats. Now you can see how easy it would be to just drive past them, not see them, and that camouflage works really, really well. I'm trying to think. What do you think, Sean? Do you think we might get a better view from the other side of that little river system there if we move back out and around? It's worth having a look. So we just got to find a spot through here. So we might get a view from the other side of this little erosion gully. But as I said, I don't want to drive too close, put any pressure, create any negative connotations for them and vehicles. Yell if you think you get a gap, Chandra. So that's why I'm driving very, very slowly, in low range, first gear, very slow movements, no quick movements, no loud noises. Now, even though they're quite used to cars, you should always try to be respectful, and especially with cubs, because one little negative experience might put them off cars for a while. And I've spent many hours habituating leopards. Okay, do you see them, Jean-Ray? Should be down here. Where are those sleeping kitties? Watch out there. Just maybe, there they are. You can see, you see them, Jandre? Yeah. Much better view? I don't think it's a much better view. It's a different view, but I don't know. I wonder if I'd go as far as say much better. Oh no. Okay, let me think. Let me think how to move. Let's think. Oh yeah, I've got a plan. It's going to take some creative driving, and I think lots of little... No, I'm going to try reverse into there very quietly. Don't think we're going to be able to quite swing that way. I'm going to have to do something a bit different. They're still there, still curled up in little balls. But see, it's always very important never to drive directly at an animal. So that's what I'm trying to avoid doing. Hence the multiple turns of the wheel. Now, a little thing like that can make a huge difference, especially with animals that aren't relaxed around vehicles during the habituation process. So even now when I have to move directly towards them, I make sure it's a very, very small movement before I will remove again. So while I try to get us into the spot, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Making sure that I keep my movements small is what I'm up to. That being said, it seems as though our little lion cubs have really well and truly accepted us as one of the family. Okay, no, that's an exaggeration. That's not true. They haven't accepted us as one of the family, but they have certainly accepted our presence here, so much so that they have completely gone to sleep, hidden behind Mom's head. As you can imagine, there are other vehicles that are interested in the sighting. We've been marvelously lucky to have had this all to ourselves. It is, as I said, only space. There's only space for one vehicle, plus we don't want to frighten these little ones. So Andrew will be coming in to take our place. However, we've still got a little bit of time to spend with them. And they've been treating us, haven't they, Dave, our lovely lions, to the after effects of their buffalo meal that they consumed yesterday. Every now and again, depending upon where the wind is blowing from, we get the gentle smell of lion gas washing over the vehicle. And certainly I wouldn't describe that as particularly pleasant. Now, earlier on, when you last saw me, I was worried about disappearing off into this down the steep incline upon which we find ourselves. You don't find me any more reassured as to our position. However, if we do now fall into down the steep incline, we're going to go sideways rather than forwards, because we now sort of have an interesting position. Unfortunately, I had to kind of choose as to whether we could see the male lion or see the cubs. We could see the cubs beautifully when I first got here, but they have now moved themselves behind what looks like the youngest of the Nkuhumas. That female that only recently, I feel, in my mind, graduated to adult status. Although I did actually, by the way, read a very interesting article recently that would classify her as a sub-adult still, right up until about 3.5 years old. And welcome to Lynn in Florida. Now, I've just been thinking about how lucky we are in terms of having 8 Nkuhuma cubs and 8 Styx cubs, all within our Traverse area. And that ultimately means we've got 16 lion cubs that we could see on any given day. Lynn, yes, absolutely, the Nkuhumas and the Styx prides could bump into each other. It does happen. They are neighbouring prides, and it has in fact happened. A couple of months ago they met on, I think it was in Coral, and there was a bit of a growl, and the Styx were outnumbered by the Nkuhumas, and they dashed off further south into Mala Mala. However, what we're noticing with our lions is that they seem to be sticking to a relatively set area, so a slightly smaller home range than they might usually have, both the Styx and the Nkuhumas. And generally, lion prides are relatively good at keeping out of each other's way. All that roaring that we hear at night, a lot of that is just to advertise to other lions that they are there and that they would prefer to be there without any company that is not related to them. So the Styx and the Nkuhumas might meet up. They usually don't. As I said, lions are usually quite good at avoiding each other. If they did, chances are with lion prides they would probably simply move, especially with cubs. Both sets of females with babies would be extremely reticent to expose their cubs to that sort of risk. Even though generally lionesses aren't likely to set out to kill the cubs, they could, because they're competition for their own babies. So what the lionesses would probably do is if they happen to, and I'm sort of imagining this scenario in my head of the two prides walking down the same road from opposite directions, they would immediately do is turn around and walk away in opposite directions. They definitely wouldn't stick around in terms of wanting to confront each other. They wouldn't risk the confrontation, let's put it that way. It's not the threats that we have to worry about in terms of our little cubs are definitely not from the Styx or the Nkuhumas or vice versa. And hello to Michael from Perth. Now, Michael, my time in the Sabi Sand only started last year. However, I do know of the Mapojos that you are referring to. I've heard many stories of the famous Mapojos. And the Mapojos, for those of you who are unfamiliar, were a coalition of 6 male lions that made their way into the Sabi Sand and ultimately ended up controlling almost 2/3 of the Sabi Sand, just because in terms of numbers they had an enormous advantage. 6 big male lions is a force to be reckoned with. Now, the Mapojos went on to build up a reputation as having killed many, many lions, and they did, I suppose, in the natural takeover style. And there was one called Mr. T that was thought to be the most ferocious, although they all had names and characters. I never encountered them, Michael, and I sometimes wonder whether certain stories were not necessarily exaggerated, but perhaps Mr. T's reputation as being an almost evil lion were exaggerated, because certainly animals act on instinct more than anything else. Michael, in terms of bloodlines, I'm relatively certain that the Sparta pride still has offspring that come from the Mapocho gene pool, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if there are other prides in the area, maybe even the Tsalala prides, that have now fully grown offspring that are remnants of the Mapocho bloodline. I haven't kept track of each and every lion pride in the same way that many of our viewers have within the Sabi Sand, just because actually I've spent a lot of my guiding career getting to know other lions outside of this area, but I don't know all of the bloodlines. I would definitely say, in fact I would almost guarantee, that there are lots and lots of offspring of the Mapocho coalition still running around the place now as adults, but I couldn't tell you exactly which prides they will be. I can tell you that the Mapojos controlled the area that we are in at one point, as well as to Arathusa, further south to Londolozi, Mala Mala, Cheetah, Little Gowrie, all of those places that we are to traverse in. Guys, we've still got a little bit of time spent with these lion cubs, and I know that Brent is desperate to keep you updated as to what the little leopard cubs are up to. Let's go back to him and enjoy some time with little spotted babies.
Okay, so guys, we can't spend too much time here. There's only space for one car to look at the cubs. Aubrey's just arrived, so what we'll do is we'll move out and we'll try to come back a bit later, but we do manage to get into a really lovely spot with them. You can see little Hasana closest to us and Shungile, the female, at the back. So they are in an incredibly difficult area. Let's try. Oh, she's... Just try and move forward a little bit. Just gonna move forward. So when Jandre? And I'm gonna go past the tree. There we go. Here we go, look at those little monsters. They're absolutely gorgeous little creatures. Oh, look at that. Oh man, that's magic. Oh, it's tired kitty. 2 tired kitties. Lots of space for them to play. Now, as I said, I'm going to have to move out probably in the next 4 or 5 minutes to give the other vehicles a chance to have a look. We have been here for quite a while, but if there is time before it gets dark, we'll definitely come back. Of course, we don't stay with leopard cubs after dark, and especially not if their mom's not here. Just too precious. What I think we'll do is we might go have a look for Mom when we leave here. She was seen heading northeast, so go look around, see if we can find her. And I think these 2 terrors are definitely going to be here till Mom gets back, so they might even still be here tomorrow morning. So yeah, you guys are getting lots of great screen grabs. Oh, tired kitty. 2 tired kitties. Okay, so we're going to leave. Taxon is getting very close, and Aubrey's going to try to sneak into the spot where we've got to. It is the only visual, it seems. So, not too... Well, a good spot if you're a leopard cub. Great place to hide. Unlikely to get too many other dangerous predators coming through here. But we will stay for as long as we possibly can. Tax. Where are you now for? Copy. I'm moving out. You can make your way straight in. Okay, so we're going to leave. Taxes just on the road we've come off. So goodbye, little Hasana, little Shungile. I'm going to get Chandra to give you one last look before we go across to Jamie, see what she's up to.
Now it seems as though Brent definitely gets as sappy as all of us when it comes to the baby animals of our Sabi Sand. Wonderful news. Apparently, I've just double-checked with some of the other guides. Apparently, Karula was around that area this morning, or coming in from the southern boundary. So she could well be around. She's probably gone off hunting in order to find lunchtime for those two. In the meantime, our little lion cubs have lunch on tap, so to speak, and they are lying with very full bellies in the shade. They have not moved at all, except I have to tell you that the little one on the left was dreaming at one point and started making little choop, choop, choop calls with its ear twitching, and it might have been one of the cutest things I've ever seen, although that list is starting to get very long very quickly. They're definitely our youngest Nkuhuma, lying in front of them. This might be the first time that she's actually experienced little cubs of this size. She's very, very young. So from the time that she was a cub, she might not remember back to being that small, but this will be her very first experience and a chance to practice her skills in terms of being very, very gentle with these little creatures. I've noticed her a few times actually actively playing with them, not these two in particular, but with the older group. I've seen her playing with them and gently sort of knocking them about with her paw, as if to say, what on earth are you? Why are you so fragile? But very, very gentle. And that is what I love about lion cub sightings, is we see sides of lions. We usually see them sleeping, if I'm completely honest, but when we do see them hunting, they transform into these fierce, streamlined hunting machines. Or else we see them mating, which is always a very aggressive process. Although we do see the females playing with each other occasionally, it's really nice to see this soft and gentle and maternal side coming out in them. These little creatures seem so fragile. This morning when we saw them, they were covered in mud. I mean, they were basically little bedraggled bundles, having experienced their first ever African thunderstorm last night. What was your ear itchy? Their first ever African storm, which must have been, in a way, I suppose must have been a bit terrifying for them. But as with all little babies, they took their cues from Mom, and obviously she wasn't worried, and therefore they probably wouldn't have been, but they were certainly mud monsters when we saw them. They were covered in, they were so dirty when we first encountered them this morning. And we actually, I'm very grateful that our Nkuhumas are such relaxed lions with us, because Herbert and I didn't know that we were tracking a female with cubs. We thought we were tracking a mating pair. We had a male and a female's tracks. We knew they were close. We weren't really going to push it too hard, but she gave us a really nice, fair warning at a very comfortable distance before we went bumbling into them. We were very cautious. We were approaching very, very slowly. But it was just a sort of a brrr. It was so low, it was like the vibrations we felt through our feet. At which point, very sensibly, both Herbert and myself turned around and walked in the opposite direction. And so we should have. It was exactly what we needed to do, because lionesses with young cubs can be notoriously unpredictable. And that, of course, it's their protective instincts coming through. Sleeping little bundles. And Michael, who is watching all the way in Perth. Now, Michael, you wanted to know, whenever we talk on the Game Drive radio, we refer to the animals in the name of one of the local languages, and you were wondering which particular language it is that we use. It's a mixture, Michael. We actually end up with a sort of, mainly a mixture of Zulu and Shangaan. So those are the two main languages that we use. But somehow it's become a sort of a universally, not universal is not the right word, but sort of the general approach of all lodges throughout South Africa. And of course, South Africa has got 11 official languages, 12 if you count sign language. So we've got lots and lots of different languages, but it's generally Zulu and Shangaan that have become this standard accepted lingo on a Game Drive channel. And we refer to Ndlovu, for example, is a word that translates in both Zulu and Shangaan. Nyati is Zulu for buffalo, and Yari is Shangaan for buffalo. Here, because we're in a more Shangaan area, we tend to refer to them as Nyari. And it's just to there's a lot of reasons why we do it. One is that it's universally accepted standard practice for the safari industry. Often we don't where we are at the moment. So often I will pick up the radio and say the cubs or the lions or whatever it is I happen to be referring to. We don't necessarily stick to it, but we do absolutely. And sometimes it actually is done very incorrectly. And James often shouts at me because I've never learned the local languages as well as I would have liked to. I've never actually had the time or indeed the language bent that some people have. So I've just taken on whatever is the standard, whatever people refer to them as. But we say, for example, Mfazi Ngala and Madoda Ngala, meaning male and female, but it actually doesn't really mean male and female, it means man and woman. It's not the correct usage of the words. So it is not 100% accurate the way in which we refer to them, but it is something that has become accepted, and it's partly one of the big reasons is so that guests don't get, sometimes it can actually ruin the surprise for guests when they come to visit, and if their guide wants to take them to look for lions and they know that they're looking for lions, it just depends upon, it just makes life a little bit easier, let's put it that way. One thing we don't do in this area, in the same way that we do not explain, or at least we do not show rhino on our live safaris, we also do not call them in on the Game Drive channel, at least in this particular area, just in case somebody happens to be listening, because then you've just given them a really nice easy location. Little ones, are you exhausted? So much has changed in their lives in their first few weeks, from knowing only mom, only the care of mom, to being introduced to the rest of the pride of these enormous creatures that they will eventually become, and then getting to go and visit a kill. Brent, I think, mentioned yesterday with that buffalo kill that he thought it was the very first time that these cubs have ever... Oh, here we go, there's another expulsion of gas washing over us. Did you get that one, Dave? Yep, Dave is nodding. Lions are beautiful animals. They're awe-inspiring animals, but they can be hugely smelly at times. It's not a pleasant smell, and no amount of time spent with them will ever make that pleasant. I'd like to show you the male lion, but as I said, he is very much in the most awkward position possible. We had to kind of choose. You can see whenever Dave brings the camera back in this direction, you can see the angle that we're sitting at. And our male lion is, goodness, I can't even turn my body around because I feel like I'm about to fall down. And so it's really tricky for Dave to move between the two. But he is over here. He's also lying up in the shade. I'm sorry, guys. Afternoon, Abel. I'm well, and yourself? Abel, I'm with them at the moment. There's only, where they are at the moment, there's only really space for one vehicle to go in, or at least only good visual for one vehicle. Andrew is making his way. Candace on standby 1. You're welcome to take standby 2. Andrew, what's your position? Okay, copy, perfect. I'm just trying to think if there's any way that we can help the guys out in terms of putting 2 vehicles here, but there's no way. And these cubs are still very, very young, so I'm happy to keep it as a 1 vehicle sighting in this particular context. So these are the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis, and it is up to the guide in question to make that decision. When you're in the sighting itself, you can choose exactly how many vehicles are allowed to come and see the sighting, and obviously for the guests that come to visit these incredible animals, and ultimately whose contribution plays an enormous role in their conservation, being able to give them the best possible experience is very, very important. We do try and help the other guides out as much as we can. We do have another vehicle making their way in. Sorry, Cans, can you stand by 1 second? Okay, so, Steph from Belgium, before we leave our lions, and we are actually going to leave our lions now, you wanted to know if you can become a guide if you are not South African. Absolutely, Steph, you can. I actually, funnily enough, have a friend called Steph, who is not from Belgium, but from Switzerland, and she is a qualified guide. My closest friend is also not South African, who is a guide. And one of my other closest friends who's not South African is also a guide, so absolutely you can. It is entirely possible, and there are lots and lots of people who have managed it. It is not something that is restricted to being South African. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that the process is easy, that the work visa, as with any country, with any kind of red tape, it is not an easy process to go through, but if it is something that you would like to do, then you're welcome to send through your details to questions@wildearth.tv, and FC will forward them to me if that is something that you're interested in doing. If it's not, well then yes, absolutely. You don't have to be South African to become a guide in South Africa. We're going to pull out of the sighting now, so we'll say one big farewell to the little cubs, and we will move on. And while we do that, I'm going to send you back across to Brent.
So we're going to look for mom of those cubs. So Karula was said to have come this way, so it's going to be quite difficult to see her tracks. But it is going to be difficult after the rain. So this is an area that Karula does like to hunt in. We have seen her on a few kills in this area in the past. So fingers crossed that she makes a kill, fetches those cubs and takes them deeper back into Djuma. So both her daughters that are still around at the moment, Shadow and Thandi, from her first litter, both of them have cubs at the moment. Shadow's got a single female cub. She had two, she lost one. And Thandi has very recently given birth to two cubs. I'm not sure on the sexes yet. And they're not too far actually from where we are at the moment. Probably no more than 2 kilometers to the south of us. There's a waterbuck, a very speedy waterbuck, not going to hang around. Now we saw the wild dogs very close, actually we saw the way they crossed away from us was here this morning. So with dogs you never know, they might come back as well. Hi Haley. Haley's wondering about my favorite animal, the African wild dog. Now Haley would like to know, are they at the bottom of the food chain? Would they steal from a lion or a hyena? Now it all depends on numbers. I've actually seen wild dogs steal a kill from hyenas. It's very unusual, normally the other way around. Now they might try with a single lioness. Wild dogs generally try to avoid lions, as lions are probably the biggest killer of wild dogs out here, outside of disease. And they will definitely steal from leopard, cheetah, I've actually seen wild dogs kill a female leopard before. A pack ripped her apart in a matter of seconds. She couldn't get to a tree quick enough. So now we are looking for Queen Karula, the mother of those wonderful little cubs we started off with this evening. And I'm hoping she's maybe hunting through this area. I might do a little quick perusal past Buffalo's Hook waterhole. These impala don't look like they're in fear of their lives from a leopard. Or maybe they just haven't spotted her yet. Well, not being the most photogenic impalas, disappearing behind the bushes. It's always good to switch off, have a look around, have a listen. Quite a lot of impala in this area. You can see there's some more over there, and there's some more dead ahead of us as well. And the ones dead ahead of us might not be in such thick bush. Now, it's not unusual for a female leopard to spend a long time hunting a single herd of impala. Sometimes she'll even just stop and watch and wait and hope for them to move towards her. Now, a big male impala is a bit of a challenge, or even a big female impala for a leopard of Karula's size. Here comes a big male now. And there we go. There's one, and there's an even bigger one behind him. Now, a male impala weighs about 60 kilograms, 130 odd pounds or so. So quite a bit bigger and heavier than a leopard. Of course, not the same power to weight ratio. There's some more about to cross the road, Jean-André. You don't have to put yourself in a yoga position. There we go. So quite a big herd here. You can see lots and lots of them. Most numerous antelope in Africa. And they occur through a wide range of habitats. And here's some on the road are some of this year's babies. See how big they are already. That one that's crossing the road right now. Those two. Those were tiny little babies in January. Now, there's probably still another 30 or 40 in front of me. And there we go, there's still some out in the open there. Safety in numbers. More sets of eyes to spot potential predators. And also, the more you are, the greater the odds are you're not the one that's going to be eaten. No problem, Orbs. If no one wants to go back there, I can go wait there later to see if they come into a bedded area. Okay, so there we go. I've got to wonder, is Queen Karula sneakily and silently watching these impala from under a thicket somewhere? Now there's so many, I guess there's probably about 60 in this group that have moved past us. Now you heard me on the game drive radio there for a second. So with the bigger vehicles, the guys are battling to get a view of where those cubs are. So we'll wait for them to all try, and then what we'll do is we'll go there. So firstly, it's a bit easier for us for two reasons. And, oh, there we go, off they go in front of us. Oh. Next. Oh. Any more? Let's see, one runs, all runs. That was quite fun. So it looks like we will get a chance to go back to Karula's cubs in probably about 10 or 15 minutes or so, once the other guys have tried to get a visual. Now, that's one of the reasons we use short filming vehicles, is we can get into some of the areas that the longer game drive vehicles with the seats can't get. And the other reason is that we only really need to get this eye over here a good view, so whether the front or the back can't see, or even I can't see, I can watch on my monitor. So we have a little bit more wiggle room, or less wiggle room in fact, so we can work in slightly tighter areas to bring you those incredible visuals of leopard cubs and lion cubs. Also helps that we have a zoom on our big eye on the back of the car. We just had a look at some of those male impala had some really beautiful horns, and Tasha's wondering, how do they grow so spirally, and what is the purpose of them? They've probably developed in that shape, or evolved into that shape, Tasha, for their main purpose, which is fighting. So those are not used in defense of themselves against other animals like lions or leopards. It is used to compete for mating rights with females. So you'll find that they lock horns, so they can lock horns, and there'll be a bit of a reason would be possibly with that shape is that they might not stab or kill each other as easily. So of course they want to win, but you also don't want to get a sharp point in your neck. It does happen, of course, and that's why you find the males with the bigger horns are quite often more successful when it comes to breeding, because they are able to subjugate the other males in a fight. I'm just taking a very, very slow drive. I'm checking all the paths just in case I spot a track of Queen Karula. Hi Monique. Monique is in London. Monique has asked me a bit of a sad question. Has anyone seen Nelson recently? And for those of you not sure who Nelson is, Nelson was the one-eyed, one-horned impala with one ambition, and that was to avoid Karula. But unfortunately I haven't seen Nelson in over a month. Genre? No, a sad shake of the head. I think poor Nelson might have succumbed to his disabilities. Yeah, so some big elephant paths that